Hi, friends. Good morning. The Supreme Court issuing an historic ruling paving the way for gay marriages in all states. The decision raising questions about the court overstepping its bounds, with critics saying justices shouldn't be legislating from the bench.
Joining us with his view, former Texas governor and presidential candidate Rick Perry. Governor, it's good to see you this morning.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
What's your response to the Supreme Court's decision yesterday?
Well, I think Anna hit it right on the head that, I'm a traditional marriage supporter. And the Supreme Court, in this case, overstepped its bounds. It legislated from the bench. And, as I travel across this country, Americans are talking about how do we get our country back on track from the standpoint of economically, how you're going to create a climate where people truly have a good job and they are worried about the safety of our country and what's going on abroad. But, this issue should have been decided by the states. And we need to really be thinking about, do we want the Supreme Court to be these legislators in robes?
Right. Politically, though, since this is happening with quite a bit of lead time between the 2016 race when everybody actually gets out there and votes, will this make it not so much of an issue, and that national security and the economy will be the bread and butter issues that people will be voting on?
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier, that is what people are focused on. As I travel across the country, that's what people are asking me about. They're kind of like, lay out your plan. I talked to them about what we've done in the state of Texas, creating 1.5 million jobs from the end of 07 through the end of 14. We talked to them about, our concepts about how you deal with ISIS, how you secure the border of this country, keeping our community safe and keeping this world safe and defending Western values. That's what people really care about. So I think the focus will be on that as we go forward, and rightfully so.
But, of course, gay couples do care about their right to marry and whether or not this legal morass that they've been facing by traveling across state borders, one state they get married in, they go to Texas, and then they're worried about whether or not the laws in that state would allow them to have insurance rights or this and that. And it became a mess for gay couples. You saw in your state yesterday, Dallas, the city of Dallas and Austin holding ceremonies almost immediately after that decision came down. So gay couples in this country waking up this morning knowing that they could travel to all 50 states in this country and not have to worry about their legal rights.
Well, Louis Brandeis, an old Supreme Court justice, said the states are the laboratories of democracy. And I think that's what we've gotten away from in this country. And this idea that one size fits all, I just don't think that's a formula to keep this country very happy from the standpoint. There are a lot of people that do believe that marriage is between one man and one woman. But more importantly, as I travel the country, what people are talking about is how are you going to get this country back on track? What are the policies that you're going to put in place? And I go back to, if we'll let these states compete against each other with economic policies, and they'll make the right decisions, and this country will be stronger economically, and that's what people really care about.
So, Governor, we've seen in the last 24 hours 3 pretty severe terror attacks in Tunisia, France, and Kuwait. They're part of a wave of terror. It has increased. It's not just our imagination. Why is this happening?
Well, I think the president stepping back, whether it was in Libya, whether it was in Egypt, obviously we had the opportunity to stop ISIS in Syria by funding the Syrian rebels early. And then when I completely agree, had we funded the Peshmerga in northern Iraq, they would have stopped ISIS at that particular point in time. And again, the president, his stepping back from engagement against ISIS has been a terrible dilemma for our country, and I think for the Middle East. We must have a plan working with our Middle Eastern allies to go in and to eliminate ISIS.
And Governor Perry, a new poll out asking registered voters, is Barack Obama too soft on Islamic extremists? 58% saying yes, 36% saying no. Just hours, really, after that Air Products factory had the terror attack yesterday, we saw officials in France come out and say that this was terror. Is that an issue that we're seeing from our leadership here in the United States, not naming our enemy?
Well, it is. And again, I think this administration, whether it was pulling out of Iraq in 2011, whether it's not having a coalition in the Middle East to stop ISIS, continues to send the message of America's erratic at best. Our allies don't know whether we're going to be there with them. Obviously, our adversaries don't respect us either.
Are you paying attention to a lot of the polls right now in the presidential race, Governor? Do you care about these polls?
Well, you know, the news out of these polls is that it's wide open, and I believe if you'll just go into Iowa, go into New Hampshire, go into South Carolina, those early states, and build a good coalition, build a good foundation, raise your money, do the things that you need to do, that it'll turn out just fine. Polls at this particular point in time are not that meaningful.
So here's a new one. We'll put this up on the screen. Right now, 15% of Republican primary voters have Jeb Bush at the top, and Donald Trump surging in this most recent poll to second place. Is this name recognition you think it's carrying this poll right now?
What do you make of Trump? I mean, here you're the longest-serving governor in Texas history, and you're getting beaten, at least in this poll, by Trump. What is that?
Well, I think these national polls at this particular point in time are wide open, as those numbers show. I mean, when the top of the number is 15%, then there's a lot of headroom above that.
That's a good point. Governor, thanks for joining us.
Governor, it's great
You're
to see you
welcome.
this morning.
Godspeed.
Thanks for joining us on Fox and Friends bright and early. Thanks so much, Governor.